Welcome to Everything is Dead, the show where we challenge the myths of B2B and uncover how go-to-market professionals are thriving in channels everyone says are dead. Today we're diving into Outbound with Jeff Reekers, co-founder and CEO at Champion. Jeff, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Everything is dead, by the way. Everything. I
Yeah,
agree.
everything is dead. I think that's all you hear kind of constantly, but here we are. Companies are still growing, people are still making money, and so I think that's the main purpose of this show is to really dispel a lot of those kind of I don't know clickbaity type titles that you
Yeah.
see on LinkedIn and elsewhere. So, Jeff, I think a good way to kick this off and what I do with everybody is just to give you a statement and give me your reaction to it. So, if I said to you, "Outbound's dead," how would you react to that statement broadly?
Well, I mean, first off, nothing is dead, and I agree. It's all sort of clickbait stuff. I think the stuff that is dead is just like throwing a bunch of emails of people you don't know but they match some title into, put it into a spreadsheet and send a mass email, and you really have no personalization, no, understanding who you're reaching out to, and you're just playing a numbers game in mass. I think that is like not working anymore, and that sometimes
I
gets
don't think
associated with like being dead. But
Yeah, and I don't think it's either like it's ever broadly worked as well, right? I think that's kind of a myth that like people that have succeeded with cold email or just outbound in general, I think forever have been the ones that have added more creative messaging, have, got very clear on their ICP and stuff like that. And
yeah,
actually, even taking that a step further, right? The people that are doing, and I think I read it was Zenefits that still generate, a lot of their pipeline for cold email. It's because they've got a very clear definition of who their ICP is. A lot of case studies around how they
yeah,
solve the pain point, right? So I
totally.
think that, yeah. So I think that's always been my opinion when I hear even like mass cold email is dead. It still works for companies, and there's obviously reasons
You,
why.
you have to have the right play for it, right? Like it's just, it's just so different per company. And I
Yep.
know that things have changed a lot over the last five, just couple of years, really last year. But a series I think would still work today. I used to work in a company where, um, you know, uh, um, there were trade shows, and trade shows are like sort of a compelling event where companies would use our product at a trade show, and we get the list of folks that were going to that trade show. And 2 months beforehand, we'd get them to try to test out the product. And that was something where the outbound emails worked fantastic because there was just this sort of T minus, 2 months prior, we send out the cadence, and we know there's a value proposition that really does add value to the customer at that event and at that show. There's a good value proposition behind it because they could try it out for free, and that worked great because like there was a model behind it that made a lot of sense and it was repeatable. So I don't think anything is dead in different industries, different verticals. Different industries have different like responses to emails as well, and like some folks are less overwhelmed and overburdened with 10,000 emails in their inbox versus others. So it's like
It's true.
nothing is dead;
Actually,
it just changes, and you have to figure out what works for you.
it's a totally fair point, and actually, like something that you mentioned there is something that obviously I've kind of considered, but I think if you're a CMO or you're a head of sales or I don't know, head of customer success, lots of software vendors out there trying to get your attention. And
Yeah,
so maybe it does work for the verticals where they're like tech laggards. There's not like this, like the MarTech tech stack at the moment
yeah,
is like 15,000 tools
yep,
deep, right? And you multiply that by, 10 emails per
yep.
compare, it starts to get kind of wild, right?
Yeah, in that prior example, like we were selling in the food and beverage distribution companies,
Yep.
like, they respond. You send an email and they would respond to it, and that worked. We're running a MarTech company now. I can guarantee that's not working for us.
Yeah.
To your
Yep.
point, there are so many MarTech vendors out there. It's just impossible in this, and but at the same time, we wouldn't have a company if we weren't doing outbound. Like I have an hour every morning since we started the company, or even 4 months prior to starting the company. I've spent an hour at least a day prospecting and doing outbound. Like that's a part of my ritual every single day, and the response rates are great. It's an excellent channel for us. Even a company like ours, I think a lot of people look to me and the champion to say like outbound is dead because we're heavily centralized on customer-led growth and driving growth through your sort of warm introductions. And I believe all this definitely, but really behind that is human-centric way of doing business. And there's nothing that's, like a well-written, well-crafted outbound message to somebody that I know, that we can drive value for and deliver value for, and there's like a compelling message and reason I'm reaching out. That's human centric. And so, like, it depends how you do it and how you look at it, I think, as well.
Yeah, and actually that kind of dovetails nicely into the next question, which I know obviously you have a very unique value proposition at Champion, and what you're actually building is, I would say, almost like a warm signal based platform
Hmm.
that are, your old customers that you can reconnect with and try and, get them back into your business fundamentally. And I actually think that's a strategy or tactic that I'd love to talk more about, because
Yeah.
I think as we look at outbound, there's a lot in the market about signal based outbound, warm outbound, right? There's a lot of different things that are being thrown around from an outbound standpoint. And I've definitely got the opinion. I mean, we use Champion here at SenseSpark, that actually identifying people that used to be
Hmm.
champions or customers of yours are
Yeah.
great, is a great well to mine fundamentally. So maybe you could just walk me through first, like this concept of, champion based growth or customer centric growth, and then we can actually dig into tactic strategies of how you can utilize that to generate demand.
Yeah, 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 certainly. I mean, again, I think it all goes back to like human first, um, approach to growth and to business, as a whole. And like within this broader element of human first, like customers are a central part of that. And any organization with customers can be really, like, you think of having one customer. You have one customer, you can turn that into two. You can turn that two, and you can turn that into four. And if you're really driving a great experience for those customers, I think the challenges that so many come by is they look at, um, like creating pipeline to get customers, and kind of how we think of it is, like, you build relationships with customers, and invest in customers, and that's going to get you pipeline.
Yep.
And that's really how we think about it. And so much of like what we do is, um, enabling that. Whether, yeah, it's a prior customer that left that organization, joined a new org, and is going to bring you into that business. That's certainly one example. We have a customer that just left and has been promoting us and sharing us on LinkedIn. And we'll, even if they're not in a role where we think that they're going to purchase from us, we still keep those relationships intact, and folks will promote us, as well into their networks. And so we really create these like deep relationships with our customers. I think that's where it starts,
Yep.
is you have this customer base. And when you think of your pipeline, like I think so many challenges, and I've been through this with many startups before, like the worst thing possible in your pipeline, you have 100 deals and they all look differently from each other, and you've got like 90 different use cases in there, and it's just a mess. And you're gonna have to figure out like, different use cases and how customers are going to fit. And like you probably have, if you're particularly if you're selling that market, you're going to have, some technical debts and things like this, customer commits. And so what do you want in your pipeline? Like, you want it to grow organically. You want, if you have 100 deals, they all look and feel the same, similar use case, similar profile. They were referred over by somebody already using the product who understands another customer's use case. Like, that's going to be a really organic and healthy way to grow. And so we just view it as like, it's not the end. It's not the only thing you should be doing. Like, if you're only, there's so many things and ways to be able to grow your business. But if you're not tapping into your existing install and your existing customer base, and really thinking and prioritizing them first, then you're doing yourself a disservice,
Yep.
essentially. And so that's really what Champion is built on. And there's many things you can do with that. Again, like things like job changes, running referrals, incentivization on LinkedIn and posting and things like this. There's lots and lots and lots of plays you can be able to do. But it starts with like a genuine relationship that you want to be able to build. And every customer that we bring on, it's like our core priority is not day one, like, how are we going to get this customer to give us three more customers? It's like, how are we going to make them insanely successful, love the product so much, love our service so much, feel like they're a part of the company, us feel like we're part of their company, that it just becomes this organic, a cycle behind it. And that's ultimately what we want to be able to build.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. And so like I think one of the things that I like doing on this show is actually people that are listening in actually have them walk away with something they can try today, tomorrow, to actually, you know, drive that growth strategy in their business fundamentally. And so I think, to repeat back what I'm hearing, it all starts with your current customer base and making sure that they are happy, because without that, all the additional growth tactics that we can kind of talk through, a little bit later on are going to be kind of not there, right? Because you're not going to have happy enough customers to either
Yeah,
bring them to their new company or promote you on LinkedIn or do these things. And so I think like there may be early stage founders just getting their companies off
yeah,
the ground. How do you create that customer centricity from day one? Like, what are
yeah.
some of the principles or tactics that you've implemented at Champion?
Yeah. First, I think that whether it's outbound or you're going for a referral or somebody switched jobs, like there's all these triggers, and I think where we don't like what we don't follow is trying to make everything transactional. Like this just happens, so that's a good opportunity for us to get a new lead that we can get into the pipeline in the next 90 days and hopefully close some business. And that's probably that's like the opposite of how we think. Whether it's an outbound email, I generally just want to get connected with, if we're selling into marketers and customer marketers, I generally just want to get connected with people that are in this space. It is hopefully a positive relationship on all ends, and hopefully that comes to bear positive fruit at some point down the line. If you have customers, and the way we're doing it today is something like tactical, I would tell everybody to do this, is we'll do things like um, product advisory boards. We'll go through the roadmap and we'll go through a particular application that we're about to build. We'll get our customers on there and we'll ask each customer if they can bring on two other folks that they know who have a similar problem that would give us unique insights into this challenge. Then all of a sudden, we're all on a call. We get introductions into those folks. We build the relationships with them. They're helping us build something that they really need and they really want. And we're not trying to get them as a net new customer right off the bat, but it just builds the relationship from there. And we've had a number of customers that have come to us really organically just by helping us build. And that's just been such a great early stage, for any early stage founder or company. That's something I would definitely do
Love it.
with your customers is just invite them onto a product call, have them invite two others that have a similar challenge. Good things are going to happen from that.
Yeah, I love it, mate. Customer advisory board, I love that. Let's say if I'm listening to this and I may be a little bit further along, right, and I'm not at the stage of like early stage startup, because I know you've been part of other larger organizations, Aircall,
Hmm.
and again, customer centricity, having also been an Aircall customer, was definitely front and center there. So how does that change from early stage startup, where again you've given a tip of customer advisory board, right, help people build the product that they need, and then you get introductions organically, to now I'm a mature organization and maybe I'm sat there listening to this and I'm thinking, actually, we don't do a great job of really delighting our customers. What would you do then, like a bit further along in a business?
Yeah, I can give you really tactically something that we did at Aircall that, again, I would say for every company to be able to do this. And you don't need software to do this. This isn't like you got to get in the Champion and do this through Champion. But what we used to do there, what is um, we were really religious on NPS, and I used to go through and comb through all of our NPS scores, and I'd find folks that gave us a zero, and they also gave us tons of feedback and commentary, and that was gold because it was somebody that um, wanted you to be a lot better. Like they were invested in you. They could be a great customer. They could be a champion, if you will. But they just had something that wasn't going right. It wasn't the great use case. There's some problem, some challenge. You used to find those folks, and we'd invite them onto what we call a customer talks, and I'd actually interview them in front of the entire company. We had 800 people on calls at sometimes, and we get a customer that was not totally happy with us, and they give us tons of feedback on that call in front of 800 people.
Yeah,
And I'd ask a series of questions. We get to know them. They'd ask questions back. The teammates and the product team. All of a sudden, it's like it becomes real and tangible. And
I love that. I mean, it's the first time I've actually heard somebody using that tactical strategy, and why I actually think that's genius is not just from the learning a lot about your customers, but I also feel there's a misconnect sometimes from the customer experience standpoint
yep,
between sales saying customers want this feature, then they go to customer success, and now this is wrong.
yeah.
And then by the time it gets back to product and the tech teams, it just seems like complaints without merit fundamentally
Yes,
as
and
well.
what it does, it makes it very tangible. It's one thing looking at it on like a Trello board and people vote it up and down and you move things around. That's one thing, but to actually hear somebody talk about the problem and the challenge and what it cost them if something didn't work and how that impacted their work, particularly when you're doing something as sensitive as like making phone calls, which is a core part of one's job, which is what we were doing there. It just changes everyone's perspective on it because you really can feel the pain when you do that. And I'll also say, out of all those customers, I probably did 100 close to 100 episodes. We never had one of those churn. Anytime they were concerned, they come to me directly, and they felt this comfort with like, and that happened a number of times where something wasn't getting resolved, and that customer felt safe to come to me and say like, hey, I'm having a lot of trouble and we're concerned about this, and then we'd work with them through it, and we
Well,
never had anybody churn as a
yeah.
result of that.
Well, because like I think half of the issue, and again, we see the same at SensePark, right? We're a PLG product, so we have people churn, but we've got a cancellation model where we ask for feedback, right? You're
Yeah.
canceling for a reason, and if it's something that's bad, we'll reach out to them and do a similar exercise. And a lot of the time, it's wow, I can't believe that Bethany, the CEO, or you at the time, I think you were CMO, right there, like.
Yeah.
Why are you interested in my problem, right? And as long as you can show that level of care and
Yeah.
attention, typically those problems start to go away because they realize that actually there's a human on the other end of it, and we care about their success
Yep.
fundamentally.
Yeah, and then you think of everything else that stems off of that, and we work with a lot of companies and we're starting to build out enablers for referrals to your customer base. But so often I've seen this done in a way that's like, offering a gift card to
Yeah,
somebody in mass, so you
here's
get 25
DoorDash
bucks or
after
something
you've
like
just
that.
ruined the whole cold day of calling and shut down their business for a day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and like there's some merit to that, I think, from a marketing perspective. But I've yet to see anybody or hear any case where like a refer a friend campaign or something like that has really like changed the business.
yeah,
But I can again say that when I had those direct connections and relationships, then very frequently I'd have just a random LinkedIn message connect me with somebody else who was looking for a phone system.
yeah.
And we're still having that at Champion. Like somebody will in our customer base will just connect us because we have like real tangible relationships. Somebody networks, they have find somebody else that has a similar challenge at an event, and they think, hey, they want to be the connector, and they connect us with them. And that's the like organic way to be able to do it. Is this sort of like relationship based manner versus more transactional nature.
Yeah, I love it, mate. And so let's just say hypothetically, I'm on the opposite now. I think we provide a really exceptional experience to our customers, and so now I've
Hmm.
got this delighted customer base, NPS scores are high, etc. If I'm set in my seat and I'm like, damn, we need to do more with that customer base. What's just like one play that I could run? And you mentioned a couple, right? You mentioned job changes, you mentioned referrals. How do I take? And let's just use the job change trigger or signal as a component of this. How am I doing it without Champion? How am I doing it with Champion? Like, what are some steps that I could do to run that play today to generate demand through Outbound fundamentally?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way possible is to be able to get those updates in real time. We sync it through a Slack channel. You can assign it to somebody within your sales organization, either an account owner or a net new rep on your team, or just a single individual that's responsible for re-engaging those individuals. And when you see it happen, like you're going to have a few different profiles, right? Like you're going to have somebody that's going to join an existing customer, which is
Another Champion?
one thing. Yeah, yeah, and then perhaps you might have somebody that joins a target account. You might have somebody that's completely out of market, and they just they went and worked in some completely different industry or new role. And you can have people that are no longer employed and they're looking for their next role. And I think the main thing again, it goes back to being human, and looking at and playing the long game with everything. And so having a message that's not like, hey, I saw you joined a new org, would love to get you on the demo, or like
Yeah, yeah,
can you introduce us to the new team or something like that, but is genuinely being happy for folks or offering your services or providing value if somebody's looking for their next role. And if you're really ingrained in the ecosystem, you can hopefully provide opportunities for folks, and we'll see that happen, and we'll try to connect people with new roles and new jobs, not in from a self-servicing manner, but like in a real manner of how we can potentially help. And so I think it's, there's an exciting moment. Like that's one where it's like there's some monumental life change. It's like, I just did, it's open enrollment season. So it's like, you have that life, what is it, like the significant life change where
yeah,
you can change your plans or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
It's similar here. It's like somebody just had like a significant life change,
Yeah.
an event. And if, it's a great moment to just show your humanity in a sense. And so you want to be able to bucket those in a few different categories. Again, I gave those four as examples. I think those are the most common ones that you're going to see. And then if you can distribute those correctly across the team, I'd really encourage not doing something that's just completely automated, but really like recognizing where they're at, their backstory, sending something that's actually heartfelt. It can be an email, yes. It can also be if you've gathered that information over time through a product like Champion and you have their address, it can be a little gift, which is
Love it. I
something
was
that we
just
do
about
a
to say
lot
that.
of,
I was
a
just about to
handwritten
say that.
card.
Yeah, yeah,
We are the handwritten card people. Like we do tons and tons of handwritten cards.
yeah.
And so, yeah, just being genuine with it.
Yeah, I love it. And I think there's a couple of things to like play back here to people that are listening, which is what Jeff's just outlined, right, is a data set fundamentally, if you look at it, right? Like it is a data set, but what you've actually said is like, even though these people, and let's just use the example of champion at your company now has moved to another target account that you've been trying to break into, the
Yeah.
first message you send them is not let's jump on a demo and sell you champion.
Yeah, yeah.
The message is still very much tied to it's more nuanced, which is eventually you hope they're going to introduce you, but fundamentally you still have to think through the person on the other end of the message and actually how they perceive that message it will send, right?
Yeah,
Fundamentally.
and I can't tell you how often, like, we'll have a message, and if even we're a fairly new company, but even at our scale, we see job changes happen very, very frequently. And if we've done our job with them when they worked with us, it's going to organically
Happen. Yep.
happen.
Yep.
And so, if we send a handwritten card, and we usually come up with some really interesting gifts and personalized gifts for folks. But let's just say we send somebody a bottle of wine and a gift card, congratulate them on the new role, and follow it up with a LinkedIn message, DM, or something like this. In the majority of cases, significant majority, folks are going to respond and say, there's a great opportunity in the next 90 days. We're going to reach out sometime in the next like 30, 60 days. It'll probably be the right moment for us to spark a conversation. I don't even have to ask.
Yep. Yeah, and it's actually really interesting you say that because I think there's, and I hear it even on sales calls sometimes when I'm very clearly stating that I've got a problem that a solution can solve on a demo call. They sales reps, the commission breath is the name for it, right? Like they
Yeah.
immediately, instead of actually like doing a bit more discovery and digging in, I think similar things happen where it's like, great, all champion in a target account. You get that adrenaline bump of I want to reach out and get a demo on the calendar. And you're right, like actually if you do things the right way, those things will happen. And actually you could spoil it by
Yeah.
reaching out
And
and asking for a demo fundamentally.
yeah, and I think for any seller, like particularly the last like four, five, I don't know, last handful of years, we very much sell the products and don't have the relationship. And I think that's definitely been more prominent as the SDR, AE, CSM. You've got these different divisions, and you don't have that sort of like, I don't know, the prior era of you have a customer relationship and you can hop to 15 different companies and you have the book of business and that
Yeah.
relationship. We're probably past that era, but nonetheless, I love to think of like, if we started a different company that was Champy, I don't know. I can't think of a good company name right now, but like some other uh, similar company in our market, and we started that, then we've got folks that we can reach out to. And I think as a anyone in the sales profession, like that's ultimately what you want to be able to build over time, are like
Yeah.
really deep relationships that you can leverage over the course of your career, tap into in the course of your career. And it's going to be, there'll be customers of yours at some points, not at other points. But I think that's like kind of been lost in a sense.
Yep.
The more you can play that long game, be less transactional, it might be harder to build up in the short term. It might put a lot of pressure in the short term, but the hope is, one, that comes out the other side in a really positive manner, and then two, for me personally, I just can't stomach doing it the opposite way. Like, if it costs me to grow a little slower and I only got to reach out to 10 folks instead of all 100, but those 10 were like the folks I wanted to reach out to, that there was a meaningful, connection with, that there was a meaningful message to send, I'd rather just send those 10 and not hit the whole 100.
Yeah. I love it, mate.
And yeah,
I love it. I love it. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but like what I'd love to end up with is your outbound that you're doing,
yeah,
which is through customers. Have you got any stats as to like, and again, like industry standards for cold email are horrifically low, right? Like 30% open rate. Some people are getting 2% reply rates. I'd imagine it's vastly different in your world where there's a relationship already established fundamentally.
We're early stage company, and so, and you have the benefit of having, founder on the title. And I think that helps. And we're new tech, and people like, and it's interesting and it's exciting. And so I think there's a lot of things that sort of help. We are really heavily, and I'm really heavily, we certainly we do it through our customers and through network, but I also just do straight, cold prospecting. I just go on LinkedIn, sales nav, nothing too fancy. I send 10 messages. Uh, it takes me 45 minutes probably to send 10 high quality messages, just from from for that perspective. But I'll get 3 replies out of that in the same day, and I'll probably get 4 or 5 on average that'll come through that cohort of 10. They're really solid messages. Sometimes they're just in mails, maybe connected with folks, but there's something behind it. I group things in terms of, oh, our investor is in this region, in this area. I'm going to reach out to the companies there. And like there's some sort of connecting points. And I'm usually not asking for a sales demo. There's something genuine that I'm really trying to make a connection on. I want to get to know people for the long haul. And that gets picked up. And, if somebody that, as an example, I know we're coming up on time here, but somebody, as an example, that I had an intro call with way before we even built the product, March of 2023. It was an outbound message. And she just referred over this week alone. She was at a conference, referred 3 customers over to us.
Yeah, that's
Um,
wild. I mean, that's the value right there, right?
yeah,
From like, one conversation has turned into 3 leads. That's awesome. So to
yeah,
replay back, I think takeaways from this show, customer led growth fundamentally is the value statement here. Give your customers a phenomenal experience, treat them great. And then obviously the hope being establish great relationships and turn them into perpetual referral partners fundamentally, right?
yeah. And like, I think it's, we were just working on the messaging on our website, and there was a statement line somewhere on like page one of the deep pages, and it's like, drive growth through your customers. And I hated that line. I don't like that line, because it's like it's a transactional relationship with your customer. Then it's with, everything is with, doing it with your customers, drive growth alongside, with your customers, partner with. And I think that's how we really think of it at Champion.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, this has been great. I know you'd have phenomenal insight, and you've been great. Thanks for appearing on the show, and everybody can follow Jeff and Champion on LinkedIn and all other social channels as well. Jeff, thanks for hopping on.
All right, thanks so much, Ben.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.